Hey TPT sellers, do categories matter on TPT? In other words, do we get a TPT SEO boost if we choose the right category? And the answer is yes, more than you might think. My name is Mike Puchigami. I'm the host of the SEOTpreneur YouTube community. I've discovered the developer manual that Team TPT uses to create their search engine. They use a company called Algolia. And in this series, every Sunday, I'm going to reveal another secret rule that TPT is probably using. Now, I say probably because we have the recipe that TPT uses, but we don't know exactly what they're cooking in their kitchen. So the game that you and I get to play is based on what we've seen on TPT. How do we think they're implementing the code? So in the first episode, we talked about how there are 8 rules that Algolia uses out of the box. The first one looks at typo. That's what allows search engines to figure out when we mistype a word, oh, you probably mean this. How close is the word that you type with the words that are showing up in the search results? In the second episode, we talked about geolocation. Geolocation is how on your phone you can see where the nearest Starbucks is. My theory is that during the personalized search experiment, they used geolocation to show search results closer to the teacher searching. That's my theory. Last week, we looked at how the number of words in the search phrase can impact your TPT SEO rating. And today, we're going to look at filters or categories. On TPT, we can filter by formats. The grade is a category, standards, subject matters, price ranges, resource types. These are all things that we can filter in a search. These are all things that a search engine can filter for. This episode is for TPT tadpoles, TPT hamsters, and TPT hawks. If you don't know what I mean by those terms, check out masterclass number 2. But choosing the right categories may have a larger impact on our TPT SEO rank than we thought. Here's why. There is a specific order of rules that Algolia Search uses. In fact, on the Algolia Search manual, it says you can change the order of the default criteria, but you shouldn't. The out-of-the-box ranking order works for most uses. And then they explain the 8 ranking criteria: typo, geography, words, filters, proximity, attribute, exact, custom. Ooh, and then there's a new one here: attribute and proximity combinations. That's cool. So what does Algolia mean by filter? The developer manual explains that if a query, so the search term that we type in TPT, if a query uses filters or optional filters, then this criterion ranks records according to the number of matching filters. So if you search for grade 6 and you search for English language arts, then if you have both grade 6 and English language arts with the optional filter settings, you would score 2 points. If you only had grade 6 or if you only had English language arts, you would score 1 point. If you didn't have any of those, you would score 0 points. And this is what lets Algolia Search do what's called fuzzy matching, which isn't an exact match, it's a close enough match. Algolia has a blog post and they explain how optional filtering means that you get not only the search results with the exact search criteria, but you also get results that don't match the exact search criteria. Now the question is, does TPT use exact category matching, or does it use fuzzy matching where it'll show related results even though it's not an exact category match? I'm going to go to TPT. I'm going to search up an obscure search term like ChatGPT, but Mike, ChatGPT isn't that obscure. It is probably if you're in pre-K. So I'm going to click on pre-K. And when I have ChatGPT in pre-K, oh, that's more results than I thought I would get. These all say pre-K to 12, pre-K to 12, pre-K to 12. I'm looking for a more specific niche down resource where there's only one. So I'm going to look for something super obscure like video. Here we go. So I'm going to select the format, video. Now I'm looking up ChatGPT, which is the keyword. That's the search query. And the categories are pre-K for the grade, and the category is video for the formats. And I get 1 result. So what this tells me is TPT is only returning results that exactly match the categories that are searched for. You have to have all of these categories in order to show up on TPT Search. And when I say category, I'm also including grades, formats, Common Core standards if you've set them, because from a search engine's perspective, these are all categories. That's probably a good thing, because if a teacher was searching up a math resource for grade 8, and then you got a fuzzy result where it showed another grade 8 resource that wasn't math, you would probably have strong feelings about the quality of TPT Search. We just showed that TPT is using exact filter matches. That actually confuses me because I thought that all results move to the next rule. So for example, if I have all of these products on the left-hand side, the first rule sorts them by typos or the spelling. The second rule sorts them by geographic location, if that's applicable. The third rule matches them by the number of words that matches the keyword phrase searched for and in your resource. So then I would have thought that it would have sorted by resources that have all the filters matching and then resources that have none of the filters matching at the back end. But that's not the case. So the real question is, do categories matter from a TPT SEO perspective? The answer is yes. Here's why. If you're not in the category, then you won't show up in a search for that category. And now you're thinking, duh, Mike, obviously. But teachers may be searching by category more than we think. And here's why. Whenever you click on the top menu items, TPT sets the category for you. Here I am on the old TPT website. It's June 23rd, 2024. If I hover over science and I click on pre-K science, notice how on the left-hand side, it has selected the category pre-K for grades and science for subjects. The ads only show up if the category is selected, so it's showing us ads for pre-K and science. Let's say I search down here and I realize this isn't what I'm looking for. So I go up to the top and I type, oh, look right there, end of the year activity. I'm going to click on that. And now what it's done is it's searched for the keyword end of the year activities in the category pre-K in the subject category science. And if I scroll down here, you would have to have science and pre-K in your product in order for you to even rank. Remember, because TPT only shows results that exactly match all of the search filter settings, you can't get past this rule number 4 unless you match the search settings. So now comes the age-old question, should I select more than 4 grades? This is a question because TPT says here, under the grade level categories, select up to 4 grades. And then they go on to say, if your product works for all grades, select not grade specific. And I would argue, don't select not grade specific ever, because if you select not grade specific, the only way you'll show up for that is if they search for not grade specific. If they search up kindergarten, I won't show up if I'm here for not grade specific. And a concrete example of that is on my TPT Seller store. Here's my ultimate bundle. And originally I had it set as not grade specific, but then I realized if you search for TPT Seller, here I am in the middle. Let's say you're a kindergarten TPT Seller, you'll probably click on kindergarten, and now I show up at the top. I'm number 2. If I didn't have kindergarten selected in my product, I wouldn't show up for a kindergarten search filter. A teacher would have to specifically click on this, not grade specific, and then you get resources that are not grade specific. So if I search for Fuchigami, I won't show up on this page at all. So if you sell the TPT sellers, then the question you have to ask yourself is a TPT seller more likely to choose a grade, or are they likely to choose not grade specific? What would you do? Because, if you're watching this, you're probably a TPT seller. And then chances are your answer is the same if you're a teacher looking for teacher resources. If you're looking for a resource that can work for any grade level or more than 4 resources, you're not going to click not grade specific. You're going to click the grade that you teach. So if we come back to the categories that we can choose as TPT sellers, if TPT is saying select up to 4 grades, then the real question is, why do they allow us to click more than 4 grades? And yes, I know just because they allow us to do something doesn't mean that you are allowed to do it. The team that develops the website appearance, the UX team, the user experience team, is probably different from the team that develops the search results. So just because I can select multiple grades doesn't mean that I shouldn't do it. It doesn't mean that I shouldn't not do it. It just means it's something for us to experiment with. So TPT can say select up to 4 grades because that's best practice. And I would agree with that. I think you build trust by specifically speaking to your customer avatar. I have some differentiated reading articles that are written at a grade 4, grade 6, grade 8, grade 10 level, because just because you teach grade 8 doesn't mean that you actually have students who read at a grade 8 reading level. For various reasons, some of them read at a grade 6 or a grade 4 level. And some of them are reading ahead of their grade. One of the mistakes I made was I had here as the grade levels grades 4 to 10. And I think that's kind of scary because, well, no, a grade 10 isn't going to do the same content as a grade 4 student would. So by only having a couple of grades, it helps build trust. In fact, I would argue if you make grade 1 resources and it only says grade 1, then if I'm a grade 1 teacher, I'm paying very close attention to what this resource is because it's only for my grade level. Whereas if I'm a grade 3 teacher or a grade 4 teacher, I might think it's too young for my students. So selecting more than 4 grades might break down trust between you and the teacher buyer. Is there a TPT SEO benefit by selecting more than 4 grades? And I would say yes. If you're selling clip art and it applies to pre-K, 1, 2, 3, already that's 5 grades. But if you don't have grade 3, you're missing out on that market if someone's doing a search for clip art by grade 3. So there is a benefit in that you won't show up in that category search unless you have that category. The real question is whether or not TPT applies a penalty on you if you select more than 4 grades. And my guess is no. But this is something that you would have to experiment with. TPT is updating their TPT data tools for us on the seller dashboard. Here's the TPT seller blog. Very soon, we will be able to compare our data by custom date ranges. So here's how you could use this. In theory, if a category is right for you, then your page views and your conversion rate should go up because teachers are looking for that resource in that category and then they find you and woohoo, it's awesome, they buy. On the other hand, if you choose the wrong category, then your page views go down because you're not relevant to that category. Up until now, there wasn't really a good way within the TPT seller dashboard for us to figure out if a change made a difference. But in this example, let's say you changed the keyword on May 8th. You can compare your page views from May 8th to May 15th with a week before May 8th and see what the page views were like, or see what the conversion rate was like, or see how the earnings changed. So this one little change makes TPT a much more fair place because now all of us can tinker around with data without needing to use Google Sheets or to pay for expensive services. So I love this feature. As an outsider, it's actually very hard for us to know who clicks on those top menu links. But there are some tools to help us figure this out. SEMrush purchases clickstream data from your internet service provider, so they know the websites that you visit in an aggregated anonymous format. So we know in May 2024, 45% of the traffic to TPT was from people going to teacherspayteachers.com directly, and that's down by 20%. It makes sense because most American teachers are wrapping up the school year. Interesting, traffic from Google remained around consistent at 35%. And I'm very excited because when TPT switches over to Google Analytics 4, it looks like they'll attribute the traffic that comes from Google to actually be identified as coming from Google. Right now, if I go to my TPT seller dashboard and if I look at my traffic dashboard, on one hand, it looks like a lot of my sales are coming from Teachers Pay Teachers. But if I type in here search, Google search doesn't show up. Bing search shows up, but not Google search. If I type Google specifically, I can see Google AdWords. Those are ads that either I've purchased or that TPT has purchased on behalf of TPT sellers. So when the new data dashboard is here, I expect we'll see around 35% of our traffic coming from Google directly. But the reason why I wanted to show you SEMrush was because we can actually look to see how much traffic comes from the search pages, or rather, if we pay $1,500 to get SEMrush trends, we can see what percentage of traffic goes to the search pages. Now, I don't have that kind of money yet, but I'm super excited because we are around 50 watch hours away from hitting 4,000 watch hours in the last 365 days, which means the channel can get monetized and we can start earning pennies. Eventually, the pennies add up to become dimes, maybe even quarters. And eventually, we'll be able to unlock the SEMrush trends data to get a better idea of how many people are using the search categories on TPT. Here's the TPT SEO takeaway for today's lesson. Categories matter if teachers are searching by category, because obviously if you're not in the category or grade that they're searching for, you won't show up at all. And teachers might be searching by categories more than we expect because they may not manually search by the categories, but when they click on a top menu item, TPT sets the category for them. And as soon as the new TPT seller data dashboard is out, we can all start to experiment with categories and see whether we can increase page views and conversions. Let me know what you think in the comments. If you learned something new, please hit subscribe so that you can get more TPT SEO secrets like this one. And I'll see you next week. Bye-bye now.